What's up, guys? Vince Rutter here, and welcome to my top 10 romance webtoons of all time. Pretty much to me, at least, because these are my favorites, um, particularly of what I read in the channel. So you can search these videos in this channel if you want to see what they are or any reason. I don't know. It's gonna be a busy day in the description because reads, the music I'm playing, a bunch of other stuff. I don't know. It's gonna be a whole pack in the usual. Follow my Instagram and stuff like that. But other than all of that, yeah, 2021. Interesting year. Surely hasn't been an easy year when it comes down to the end of this year because Lord knows I've been struggling. But yeah, no one wants to hear that. But yep, it's uh it's been a okay year compared to last year for sure. Because my goodness, 2020 was boring. But at least this year, I prefer this year than last year. That's for sure. Other than that, yeah, I read some amazing stuff. There was so many webtoons, so many reads that I haven't really got around. There's a couple of reads here, and looking back in my catalog, there is a good amount of reads that I kind of saw, and I was like, oh, okay, well, these are the ones that I feel like deserve to be in this list. And pretty much some that, I'm just going to say it wouldn't be a surprise if you've been following this channel. It wouldn't be a surprise to understand like what are the reads that I have. But other than that, yeah, let's just continue. I'm gonna explain to you why. Actually, let me tell you. When it comes to top tens, I'm bad at it. Okay, I saw my previous top tens after making this video, and I was like, man, I am not good at explaining certain things. Okay, certain details. So I'm just giving you the way I give it to you, the Vinci way. Okay, of actually telling you the reads of what I think about them, what's my memory about them, and what is these are just reads that I basically would recommend to you if you're, diving into romance, if you're diving into, the stuff that I'm into. If you're asking a, particular person, a random person, and it just so happens to be me, I'm like, oh, let me give you my recommendations. So this is my list for the top 10 romance webtoons. And these are the reads that basically not only that I fell in love with, but also the ones that actually gave me some good moments here in this channel and some amazing, moments of, reads and what it brings and also what drives me back and also stuff that not, even though that I haven't came back to, but some reads that, made me think like, oh, these are the ones that I feel like I do have a good memory and pretty much I did actually had a good time checking these out. And there's a lot of webtoons. There is so many. There is not enough to actually fill in this list. And I guarantee you, if I read every single damn romance, I, this channel will, pretty much like I don't get paid, so they better pay me at least $1 million to actually read every single romance or every single romance in, any not just webtoon but everything else. I guess it would turn into like books and stuff like that. And that's a lot of reading. Lord knows I'm too busy for that. But here I am, and here it is. These are my personal favorites, mine, okay? If you have a favorite top 10, then feel free to put them down the list, okay? I guarantee you, this is all by memory. This is all off the dome, and I'm just reading by the list of here it is of my top 10s. And we're going to start off with the first one for the 10 spot. And I kind of feel bad that I didn't really put an exact name. I put Jassy. Okay, am I right about that? I put Jassy. Okay, and it's pretty much a webtoon that is centered around Paraguay, literally like the country in Latin America and South America. It's like close to Brazil and all that. It's one that I never thought that I would actually get into, but for this particular animation style and what it brings and everything and just the culture surrounding the tales surrounding of in Jassy, or when Jassy whistles as it's called, this webtoon, this romance is pretty interesting. It's super. It's kind of like almost paranormal, but also very spiritual as it brings, and also the protagonist and how some of the amazing action moments in this one. I remember reading this, and I actually had a good time actually checking it out. And from what I found through this webtoon, it's so different from any other kind of like action romance out there. And it's not set in the European like or Korean setting that webtoon is used to. It's set in a different world. It's set in like in a forest. You see these creatures, and it has that fantasy style to it that reminds me almost like older like Final Fantasy games or older like I guess anything fancy. But I mean, listen, I put it in this list because the fact that it's in set in Paraguay, and if you know me, you know that I thrive for diversity in terms of locations, in terms of because listen, it can't always like every single webtoon that I read always been set in like Europe, always set in Korea, and it gets really tiring, even though those reads are, the webtoons are pretty good, and one of them are actually set in Korea and also in Europe in my list. But it's good to have something different, something that actually really change up the whole atmosphere, the whole environment of this webtoon, the spirits, and also the history surrounding it. It's just such an interesting webtoon with, not only the magic elements, but also these two interesting characters that actually puts their self true of how they see each other and how they discover, and also how each other's power actually dominates the other. So it's an amazing fantasy webtoon and also has some amazing action to it. I recommend actually checking this out if you're actually dipping your toes, if you still want that romance, but also the fantasy setting surrounding it. So it's actually a good fantasy one, and it's so different from any other webtoon that I have read, and it's so its own like its own animation, its own thing. For the number 9 spot, I just gotta give it to My Sixth Sense Kiss. Now this one is Sixth Sense Kiss. It is pretty much I read a lot of webtoons, and I noticed this with my list. There's a lot of webtoons surrounding like the whole like lover that happens to be an employee or intern and also working for a company and falls in love with the boss. Those kind of rates. And I think there's a lot of webtoons surrounding that. I guarantee you there is like too many. But for this one actually centers around a girl, and I pretty much read enough chapters in Sixth Sense Kiss to understand that the plot, there's something deeper, there's something more within her power, even though it doesn't really go much to her power, for a good amount of time. When it does, it actually becomes a shock, and it reminds us, it actually almost throws us off and actually brings us a certain surprise of understanding who this girl is and what is her power and what is, behind, the story behind her family. And also there's many mysteries that are very interesting surrounding this webtoon. I had a good time actually reading it, knowing that, it's one is short and pretty much not too short, but also not too long. And for each episode, it is kind of like brings surprise, but also brings that, lightheartedness between these two lovers, like the team leader, which is Minu Cha, and also the main character, which is Yasul. And these two pretty much like, at first they, it's the whole like enemies to lovers thing. That's what it brings. But in this one, I kind of like it. It kind of brings out that, almost like, of course, adult setting, how, one of them is like in their 20s. And I really do like how the characters really communicate with each other as they move on towards the story, towards to the webtoon. Each episode brings that new dynamic of, getting each other. And pretty much they never let go of their own character, of knowing who they are. They're not too dense. They're not too like, over the top or something like that. And there's some moments where it is somewhat like, somewhere over the top, I'm not sure, but it's actually good to find something that is very deep, very fun to actually check out in terms of having to see this like work environment, office, and make it fun as these two lovers involved, and also the romance and how the characters, and each character is almost like interesting. Each guy character surrounding Yasul, my goodness, I like Yasul has to really watch her back, and there are some funny moments surrounding it, so I really dig it. That's for sure. And yeah, I put it in my number 9 spot because it's nothing too crazy. I feel like I've seen this kind of this story been done before, but it's a different different setting in terms of Yasul's power of her senses and what she can do with her power, what the many possibilities, because there's still more that this webtoon can bring. Next, for the number 8 spot, is Little Rain. Now, Little Rain is one that I actually haven't been caught up. I haven't been catch up for a good amount of time. I kind of been slacking. I guarantee you there's a good amount of people that actually is still waiting for me to read some of the episodes, but I just been so far. I'm like, man, will I actually get through all of it? And knowing from my moments and remembering all the good times I had reading this, it's such a very calm and very ambient webtoon. It's a very good, peaceful webtoon that is very lighthearted, very calm, and I really dig the premise and what it brings, and also dig how, especially the cats, the pets. If you're into kitties, if you're into cats, if you're into like pets, and pretty much those pets turn into humans and what they would look like if they were humans, especially for this one, like how this cat turns into a pretty boy and how that sort of brings this love interest between the owner. It is, to me, a lighthearted, very lovable, and very warmth calming webtoon, at least for me. It's nothing too crazy. I feel like, you see the cat actually really try to protect the girl or the owner, and she is, well, like there's some moments where I thought she might be like, aware about this, but not really. It's just turns to the pet. I remember seeing the first episode. I was like, what are you doing petting this random dude? And it happens to be a cat. I was like, you're seeing a dude within this kitty that is, the cat, and pretty much the cat's has a human form, and each pet has a human form, and it actually brings this interesting ideal of just like pets, like nothing anthropomorphic. I can only imagine being anthropomorphic actually. If it is, that would be just be weird. But if doing to the setting kind of works in this calm, very lighthearted, lovable kind of webtoon that I really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed the romance of this, how it's in the slice of life world, and how we see a little bit more of the the main character, the pet owner, and we start to see other characters that the pets are not really comfortable with, but also trying to be their protector and also trying to be there for them, but also having this like blush and blushing moments of just you really see that the cat slowly fall in love with the owner, and that's how pretty much I see it. And it's a very enjoyable breed. It's anything for me, like knowing that I don't really have pets or anything. I feel like this will be enjoyable for those that really do enjoy it. But I find myself very calm and very having fun of actually reading this webtoon. I really do have some more moments surrounding it. So yeah, I definitely do recommend checking out Little Rain. Next, for the number 7 spot, is Act Like You Love Me. Now, this one, of course, just like My Sixth Sense Kiss, is also surrounding the whole, like, friends enemies, and also, like, intern to intern ex, boss, or in this case, superstar. I don't know what it is. For Act Like You Love Me, I just find myself having the best and most hilarious moments reading this webtoon. And I think that's why I really enjoyed it. There's some funny, hilarious moments in this webtoon that I just, I couldn't get enough of. I really do enjoy Act Like You Love Me due to the how it's just like going on. It doesn't really go to like, pretty much an oversaturated circle. It goes into different counterpoints and also with different characters as it pops out, and pretty much surrounding like the deepness within these characters, especially with Sehen, not only with the main character being Ji-on, but with Doyeon, and also this random Minji doll coming out of nowhere, and you have this other character coming out of nowhere. It's just like there's certain things that throws you in this webtoon that really makes the moments of this webtoon more valuable, more more funny, and more interesting. And there's some amazing moments, especially with me reading it. I find myself actually enjoyed more because I never thought that every episode would actually be this funny or be this, I guess, entertaining and be this crazy, So yeah, Act Like You Love Me. I know for sure that some of you might not, pretty much might be surprised that it's not in my top, like somewhere in number 4 or number 3. But for this one, like it gets to a moment where you almost feel like it surprises you. It surprised me because a lot of times I'm like, okay, there's nothing special. It's probably just gonna be low key calm. Nope, it just goes into more craziness, more like moments where it's like, what is happening? Where did this came from? It's just the shocking moments, the shock value of surrounding this webtoon is really fun. It's really enjoyable, that's for sure. And I really do enjoy how these two lovers actually really get, to be there for one another. And also, there's this like love triangle, and then there's this like love square that's slowly coming up. Not to spoil it, coming up within this webtoon. So there's some moments in this webtoon where I'm just like, what is happening? But my goodness, it's that enjoyable. Next is Let Me Stay Over. Now, this webtoon right here is it's one that for some reason I didn't cut up, but finding myself reading it, it's almost like this is like the typical like love. You can tell what's my interest in romance. Not only BLs but also love interests surrounding like interns and also bosses. Like I don't know, I guess I find that hot. I guess I'm weird, am I? But no, it's for this one. It's not only like the premise and actually centers around my favorite of that type of romance, but the fact that it looks like a Pixar movie, it just really looks like a Disney movie centered around a manhwa. Like that's like it's anime style, Pixar-ish Disney, like like anime. Like I feel like that's one thing that I could never get my head out when it comes down to this particular webtoon, because it just centers like like the same kind of premise that I'm into, but with a Disney Pixar-ish twist, at least the way it looks like. And pretty much from its story and from its characters and from its love interest surrounding these two characters, the boss and this lady that happens to work for him, it's just lovable and also very interesting, yet one of the ones of my favorite. And I just know that I had to add it in my my slot of actual reads of different centering in that style, the same way that Act Like You Love Me, the center around Sixth Sense Kiss, of this style. And I kind of really enjoy myself reading this. And there's so many that can be, there's so many other webtoons that actually can do better. But for this one particular, it's just like there's magical moments. It's that Disney feel to it from the looks, but it's at the same time it's not Disney. It's basically, its own manhwa webtoon that actually has different love interests, and also with this, main innocent character, and you have this boss character that happens to be questioning like, do I love her, do I love her not? And then another character comes in and he just comes trialing in like, hey, get away from her, she's mine, kind of that kind of thing. But man, I find myself enjoying this webtoon so much, especially not only when it brings the Disney feel, the visuals of just the landscapes of where they are, different places they go, and the different jobs they have to do, or pretty much the outside, like even the rooftop itself, seeing the moonlight shine on this character's face. Like there is so many amazing like thumbnail moments of just seeing this webtoon almost come to life the way I try to read it, or the way I try to portray it. And I'm just so glad that I actually did read it, because I find myself actually reading so many romances that are not just the same thing, even though they are with this kind of premise, but also having to actually, differentiate different styles and also different settings of just how it would bring all together. Pretty much it has its own style, and it's so good at doing that. And I'm just so impressed of how it looks and how it really brings together, and how the characters, even though there's some moments where the animation doesn't always go full Disney, but it always seems like it's right. It always seems like it has that amazing taste for what it really brings together. It's just a good, it's a good kind of, it's one that definitely is for a certain crowd that, like me, that really enjoys not only this kind of premise, but also is interested to actually see more where this visual and animation, also the characters and where it can go. Other than that, yeah, it's definitely in the number six. For number five, this one is a wacky one. I don't know. To me, it's wacky. My goodness. For something that really strikes me of different webtoons, I always want to see something that can actually strike in that sexiness, that real like, ooh, blushing. Well, let me grab your cheek to make you blush more. And that is Princess Jules. Like Princess Jules, for many romances that try to go the safe route, Princess Jules, like it does go to a safe route, but it's very prestige. It's very like, ooh, hello there, kind of like feel, and almost like just brings you like more higher to what it really brings together, and to in terms of it's just like how it can really take you. Like I don't know, for me this the Princess Jules, like I heard about it and it was recommended because I was checking out like its predecessors of just other webtoons that I think the same person that made this worked on, like other like fantasy setting romances. Like, man, I forget some of the names. That's a thing. I haven't made any interest to actually check those. I think one is like Your Throne, and I forget the other one. But then it was recommended for this one, The Princess Jewels, and I was like, okay, let me check it out. Let me see what this is all about. And my goodness, the visuals, the princess. My God, this girl is crazy. Like, she really is that greedy, and she gets what she wants no matter what. And the men in this webtoon is pretty hot. Like, they're pretty out there slaying. Just with what they wear, their characters. They have each and every character. It's a reverse harem. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, I don't really see a lot of harems or anything like that for its precious jewels. The jewels being the boys, and the boys or men, of course. The men being like, ooh, these like top tier, like, very royal and hot men. And pretty much this lady's just chewing it up. She's just getting what she wants with all of it. Maybe because of the money she has or the power. I don't know what it is, but it makes such an enjoyable read. And there is some like crazy moments within it, but that's what I like about the Princess Jewels. Like, it's just something crazy, and what I love about it and what I actually really enjoy of this webtoon itself is, how can that, it can play within actions. All these characters can fight, but also they can look hot while doing it. They can actually even look very well, and almost seems like every almost like somewhat like sex scene that in this webtoon can almost look like an action scene, which is something I never thought would be done in any of these romances. But man, it does it so well. I just really enjoy how hot this particular webtoon is. I don't know. I just find myself actually loving that royalty, but also bringing some of that steez and also ridiculousness of just like, the fighting, and also like the action with between these scenes. Like, it's just its own thing. That's what I really enjoyed about it. Speaking of fantasies, one that actually really captured me and is like really, made me appreciate that kind of fantasy setting for sure, and the world building surrounding it, is My Gently Raised Beast. This one happens to be one that I never thought would be in this list, but I know it just had to. It just had to. It had to be somewhere. I thought it was going to be low, but thinking about all the other, the fantasies, except a certain one, which is actually next on this list, that My Gently Raised Beast is not only the one webtoon that I watch all, I mean, pretty much I read all the episodes itself, and as I get caught up, it just gets better and better. Like, I know that it went through a very deep and dark, pretty much setting of an episode on the first one, and I could never stop thinking about that. I'm like, whoa, okay, it went that far. Okay, this is definitely not a kid's kind of webtoon. I mean, none of these webtoons are for kids, that's for sure. Okay, let me tell you. But for this one is almost like just in that dark, but also very, it just gets better and more mature as it really, it's like a coming of age story itself for this princess to actually become like, the lady that she is now, and also being set into this world where she's not accepted, and how, each character is almost like testing her or something. But the one, friend that, she has, and then it became like her, like, boyfriend in a way, as I predicted, and pretty much as this leopard. And they made the leopard look in a certain way where it's both cute, but as it grows, it goes into a mature way where it looks more scarier, more tougher. And I'm just noticing it, and I'm just like, whoa, this is something interesting, but it's going somewhere. It's going somewhere that I feel like that can never be handled, like, that no one can actually hold this particular character, because it's almost like the characters, as you see them grow, you see them become more powerful and more capable of them for themselves, and as they mature. And I love that kind of setting in this, and not only that, as we grow, we start to see some older characters from before. We start to see, how the world is being more discovered more as they grow. Not just the romance, not just the setting. And the romance is pretty hot. I really enjoy these two characters, the leopard, and also a princess named Blondina, which is actually an interesting name, how she's blonde and Blondina. I like that. That's fancy. And pretty much, yeah, and how she's, this girl that is slowly growing. I really do like how this whole story grows, and how it's becoming something. You're almost like seeing a time lapse of these characters moving on within their lives. And I really enjoy how the fantasy and how the visuals really played with all the pastel colors and how it's all well done within this webtoon. It's pretty well mattered as its own fantasy kind of setting and pretty much orchestrated in a way where it's just like this is something you probably would never seen before, but it's somewhat done very well. It's either done in a video game. Oh, that would be so cool if there was a video game of this webtoon, but also it's done very well in in, in this particular webtoon, as something that you can only read and see for yourselves. And I really like how it just brings the different patterns all together to make something this beautiful. I do enjoy this kind of fantasy setting. But man, let me tell you about this other one in my list that I feel like definitely deserves something of a setting that is just, the fantasy roots of it just breeds so much air. And that is Suit to Armor. Suit to Armor, definitely for sure. I thought I forgot about it, but then looking back at it, when I was trying to look down pretty much of all the other reads that I read for this year, I look at Suit to Armor and I'm just like, this is the one. This is actually my favorite fantasy setting webtoon. It's like I'm always into webtoons that really trying to get out from that anime setting, and this one opens to like European Western setting of its own and how it brings together. It's almost like something that you would see in like Game of Thrones mixed with Harry Potter, mixed with Enchanted, and mixed with Narnia, like all together into this one webtoon that is happily almost like you see it as inspired from all of those. Like I said, very enchanted, very beautiful, and I love enchanted romances. I love enchanted royal settings, even Victorian age. Like that's why I love My Gently Raised Beast, and also mixture of the enchantment. And that is something about Suit to Armor. I guess that's why I really fell in love with Harry Potter when I was a kid, and pretty much I didn't watch much of. I pretty much watched all the Harry Potters actually. The oldest one, the final one was pretty much like already years ago at this point. Man, thinking about it, but I just don't know the enchantment setting surrounding this magical world. I guess because of the main armor, which is Modius, the big guy, the guy with the armor. And there's something about the armor. There's something lovable. It's not really sexy or just something like that. There's something magical and lovable and romantic for me, even seeing something of an armor, fall in love with a lady like Lucia, and how that really pulls together. And pretty much, I gotta say, for this particular webtoon, I actually did well actually doing a whole bunch of like different thumbnails and setting up for different artworks for thumbnails of this. I had a fun time doing that, and there is a lot of amazing visuals within this webtoon that doesn't really need to go that far. It's just that simple. Pretty much it paints its way the way it should be, and I just love it how simple and very well done. And when it's magical, it brings that moment, almost something like of a surprise that you never thought you would see this before. But for Suit to Armor, the story and the surprises and just the deepness behind each character and the reasoning of when it comes to the elves, and also the race of these of the world that it is set in, it just brings out so much that it brings together, and it just does it so well. It unfolds in a way where not only how the characters and how everyone reacts, but to me, I just really am interested in so many parts of this where there's a lot of weird and very dark moments, but it brings you into that story, and it doesn't really shy away, but also it doesn't really go hard on it. You know what I mean? It just has that, capability of actually bringing everything together. And I really like that of a webtoon. And I know I see a lot of webtoons doing that, but for this one particularly, I just love this magical webtoon that it just has. The magic process to it, the enchantment, like I said before, and also the characters, the love interest between this armor, built, creature, but also the lady that he's in love with. And you see the story, all together, and how it really plays out, and how all this really comes together, almost something that I seen. Like, I don't know, it just reminds me a lot of Witcher. I don't know, there's something about it that sort of like makes me think about Witcher whenever I see this webtoon. I'm like, even though it's like sort of like Disney-esque with its like webtoon style, even though it's not Disney-esque, it's like a Western style kind of like webtoon that it just has. But man, the characters and the world and pretty much even different locations of this webtoon is so interesting. It's very well done. For my number 2 spot, I got to be honest, pretty much for this webtoon. I wasn't really planning to talk about it, but I really do. I really do. The sad thing is that something happened when I was trying to actually continue doing these reads for this particular webtoon. And the reason is that I keep getting age restricted whenever I do any read for this webtoon. So unfortunately, you probably might not see me read at all of this webtoon. I mean, you can see it in webtoon, but you can't see me reacting to it. And that's Blades of Furry. It's so hot that I get age restricted for just reading it. There is no nudity, but my goodness, YouTube is like, nope, this is way too horny. Okay, this is way too much. All right, and I'm like, YouTube, are you serious? Blades of Furry. I miss reading Blades of Furry. It's such a good. I'm not a furry, guys. Okay, let me tell you, I'm not a furry, but this webtoon made me really think of me becoming one. It's just so good. It's so, like, I don't know. Of course, it's a BL, and I love BLs. And for this one particularly, it brings that energy with a sports aspect and how it reminds me a lot of Beastars because of the anthropomorphic animals talking and stuff like that. It just, there's something about it. And the love between these two duos, like Yuri on Ice was actually one of my favorite animes at the time. And this one is like, oh, you know what? Why not Yuri on Ice? But when animals talking, that's, I guess that's cool, right? I don't know. This to me is like that fresh hot sauce that I just need. It hurts, but man, I just want more. My goodness, hurts my channel. I don't care. I just want to read whatever it is. I want to see each episode, and I had such a good time actually reading Blades of Furry. From seeing the characters, from seeing like how the sports aspect, the fighting. It's literally like, it's a different. Like, it's a BL. It's a romance, but man, it's also an action sports anime. It's like, these are basically, it's ice skating, but imagine ice skating mixed with martial arts. It's that cool. It's like, no way, this is freaking cool. But not only that, it's freaking hot and gay. That's what I like about it too. Okay, that's it's action, hot and gay. There, freaking mixtures of that. Okay, reason why I love Arcane. Okay, there you go. But man, this one happens to be one of those webtoons that I will remember, that I know I had such a good time with. And I'm so glad that I read it and I experienced it, because I couldn't get enough of it, knowing that I want to see more. I want to see where this goes. I want to see what happens to these two, lovebirds, aka these, this one deer, and also this one vampire, like, bat deer thing. I guess, I don't know. Are two of them deers? It's been a while, but man, how I miss reading this. And it's one of the most enjoyable kind of webtoons in terms of action, in terms of like, the love interest, in terms of like just the fun, and also the sportsy, and also one of the only kind of sports webtoons that I read. I really am into sports setting, especially if there's ever like a romance webtoon centered around skateboarding. That would be something that I would definitely check out. But for this one, I guess it's good enough knowing that it's a sports setting, but it's also it's a cool one that is definitely, taking you by surprise, knowing that what are the characters, and also it's hot. It's just hot. Okay, it's freaking hot. Reading some romance, the main purpose of it is just being blush, making myself blush, and making myself feel a certain way of that I can't really say in this channel, even though I might already say it, but it's freaking hot. That's there, okay? That's what I love about this. And that's no surprise for my number one choice. And yeah. Is anyone surprised? Boyfriends. Listen, I really was thinking of like putting like Suit of Armor for number one spot. I was even thinking of putting like even like My Gently Raised Beast, and also Let Me Stay Over even, or well, actually no, that's too far. Just up into like My Gently Raised Beast. I was thinking of putting either of these, even Blades of Furry, up into the number one spot. But the more I think about it, does anyone care? Because I care, okay? A lot of you really care of me rating Boyfriends. I got a good amount of subs, I got a good amount of views, a good amount of likes, a good amount of, exposure to this channel because of Boyfriends, because of what Rainbow made. Boyfriends is forever my favorite. The fact that it brings something, especially the episode where it turns into a freaking Disney film of that mermaid arc within this particular webtoon, immediately I'm like, yeah, this Webtoon is more better. It's not playing around. It's diverse with its style, with its story that brings back many surprises, but still brings in the particular same old cuteness. It's not trying to be serious. I think Axel said that. It's not trying to be serious, knowing that it's just a lovable slice of life, of just boys kissing, and sometimes, you have, the girlfriends, which is basically a play on boyfriends, gender bend, and it's just a bunch of kissing and loving, and it's also just a very heartwarming webtoon. And that's what this channel is that basically it's heartwarming, lovable, cute. And I never thought of something seemed so cute other than this particular webtoon. There's just something about it that it sort of speaks to me, especially Jock. It's almost like Jock is me and I'm Jock, and Jock is like, hey man, I'm you in this webtoon. I'm like, no, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You can't be me. I'm like, yeah, I am. It's like speaking to me. It's like Refrainbow knows me. Refrainbow being the one that actually created Boyfriends, but man, is it a surprise that Boyfriends is in this list at all, knowing that it's going to be number one? Of course it is. It's a BL. I love it. I can't get enough of it. You know for a fact, if it does more like the same thing with that mermaid episode or that gender bend episode or even the beach episode, it would actually bring something more better. And I would actually put in my freaking first top one spot again for 2022. I don't know. That's a little too much to ask. But that's it. Those are my top 10 webtoons romances of 2021. Thank you guys for this year. Thank you guys for everything, for all the support and all the love and all that. Let me tell you, I really enjoy romances. I can't see myself doing anything other than romance. Yeah, I know if you look at me, if you see a physical form of me, you'd be like, you kind of look like you would read or actions or action animes, like you're into Tarot to God or something, or you would look like you would play NBA 2K or probably react to music videos. First off, that's not how I am. Okay, I ain't got to do that at all. Even though that most people, when they look at me and they really immediately think that, man, you look like you into sneakers. I am, but freaking stop putting me in a freaking corner, okay? I'm into romances, I'm bi, and pretty much most people be thinking like, man, do you have like, I don't know, I can't, I'm not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna get into that, but this is what I love to do. And this is something that I pretty much am not afraid to admit and not afraid to show people that, yeah, I'm into romances. I'm a dude. I'm a big, I'm a wide person. But guess what? I don't care what people think because I ain't getting any younger. Okay? Live your life. Life can be short. That's all I can say to you. And pretty much that's why I said to myself, looking in the mirror, like, you know what? I'm gonna just do what I do, and if people are not comfortable, then whatever. That's them. But for me particularly, for who I am, it's been so long knowing that I feel like it's been years knowing that this is what I want. It's something that I've been waiting for, something that fits within me, and I never thought that reacting to romance webtoons would be something like that. It's something that fits for something for my heart, especially mentally, and Lord knows I need it more than ever, knowing that it's something that keeps me happy, and it's something that helps me cope with whatever, especially certain things that I've been going through in my life. It's just like, no, life is just never going to be easy. And why not make it easy? Why not actually hurt less than, for me, than reading these webtoons? There's a reason why I do romances, because I want to cope. I want to, I want to be a good influence. I want to actually stay out of trouble, because that is something that really means so much to me. And that's why I love romances so much of this setting, especially the ones that you're seeing right now, whether it's like LGBT plus, something that is so related to me, but also stuff that is enchanted, something that can help me escape this terrible world, or this neighborhood that I live in, or something like that. It's just like there's nothing more better than I can be in romances. I know people are gonna say what they're gonna say. They're gonna put me in a box. They're gonna say that I'm a creep for actually reading so many of these romances, stuff like that. And I don't care, because I do the work. I give the support. I try to really make something happen of what I love to do. There's nothing for me to erase that. I am not going back to being a gaming channel. I'm not going to read no damn actions unless it's romance. I'm strictly romance, and that's what my channel is, and I'm not afraid to actually put it that way. And I'm serious about it. I really am, because that's something that means a lot to me. It speaks to me. It helps me. And I just really want to live my life just more than ever. That's so personal. And it's so, so personal actually, sharing this. And this whole thing, I take it so seriously. This whole romance thing that I just love, because that's what we all need. We all need more love, okay? I say every end of the video, one love, because that's what we got. That's what we need, you know? And any romance pretty much counts as that. It's more than a romance. It's more like not loving, your interest or your partner. It's loving your family. It's loving, the ones that are around you. That's to me is romance. That's to me is true love. So other than that, thank you guys for all the support. Thank you guys for all the love and all the views and all the comments and all, everything that you have put in this channel. Thank you. And remember, I'll see you guys soon. One love.